So now that you've selected your podcast platform of choice, you can now upload your episode. However, as soon as the episode is uploaded does not mean that it's actually ready to be published and shared with the world. Have you ever noticed when you look up a podcast, you see titles and descriptions and links and episode numbers and season numbers and all that kind of stuff? So this is my personal podcast. You can see the artwork right there. You do have the option to upload new artwork for every single episode, and depending on your show, that might be a good thing to do. For me, I stick with the same artwork for every episode, every season. I've maybe changed it twice in the past 2 years. And you'll probably notice that the majority of podcasts do stick with the same artwork because it helps them to be recognizable in different directories. People know exactly what to look for. And your podcast artwork can be a tough graphic design project to tackle, but the basic thing to know is that it needs to be 3,000 pixels by 3,000 pixels with a resolution of at least 72 dpi. And of course, whichever podcast platform you choose will also give you those same guidelines for your artwork. Whether you design your artwork yourself or you enlist the expertise of someone else, it is important to spend enough time on your artwork so that people can clearly see, even when it's really, really tiny, thumbnail size, you might say, on a phone or something, that it's recognizable, that the title can be read, that if your face is there, it's clear what's happening. Look at some popular podcasts and look at some of your personal favorite podcasts and see what they do with their artwork and if there's anything you can learn from that. Of course, you could use really advanced programs like Photoshop or Illustrator, or you could keep things simple and use something like Canva to create your podcast artwork. The options are almost limitless, but you do want to have something that's going to be a visual element to identify your show. From there, once you upload your episode, no matter what platform you're using, you're going to see a form that looks something like this. You're going to be able to put in a title and a description and do some basic meta work. So the episode title, again, make sure this is something you would want people to actually see, because this is probably what's going to pop up on their phone or their car display, depending on the platform. Sometimes that's the actual file name like we discussed earlier. Other times it is the title right here. The description should be pretty short, so you explain what your episode's going to be. I have specific links that I include in every description, so my other podcasts, info about this course, ways to reach out to me or leave a message, and then of course all my contact info. At the bottom of my description, I put the episode number again, so this specific episode is season 4, episode 11. For me, the season thing was sort of arbitrary. I just took a break after my first 21 episodes for a few weeks and then came back and it felt like a different season. So since then, I've just been doing 21 episode seasons of my podcast, and I'm currently in the 4th one. Some people don't differentiate that at all. It's entirely up to you how you want to do it. I also put a series number, so season 4, episode 11 is series episode 74, and that's kind of just for me because I like to keep track of like, wow, this is episode 74. You can hit and celebrate those milestones and stuff. It's really fun. Here's where you can choose artwork. So my default podcast artwork, or I could choose specific custom artwork. You'll often see custom artwork being used in interview podcasts where people want to include an image of the person they're interviewing in that specific episode in the artwork. So it can be a very helpful tool. This is also where you can put season number and episode number. If you don't differentiate by seasons, just keep everything in season 1. And it is a good idea to do episode number because that will determine the order that things show up in podcast directories. So you're going to help people find specific shows more easily. Remember that most directories will show the newest episode first, going down then towards the oldest. And sometimes you have other options like, is this a full episode, a trailer episode, a bonus episode? Again, those are just helpful things for directories. You will be able to mark if your episode has explicit content. So if you're using profanity or you're talking about risque subject matter, you can select that. So that way you get the little explicit marker next to you, and that way people know what they're in for when they listen to your show. You could even go further and add in some SEO or a custom episode webpage. You can add in tags and stuff like that. Whether or not you want to spend time on that is entirely up to you. When you first submit your podcast to a lot of directories, you're going to be asked to select categories. But personally, it's not something I've spent too much time worrying about because I think there are better ways, more organic ways, more effective ways to promote your show than relying on categories and tags. And once everything looks good, that's where you can either publish or schedule your episode. A very common question is, what's the best day? What's the best time to publish my podcast? And that is something that is entirely up to you and to your audience. I will say that I do think it is incredibly important, both for you as a creator and for your audience, to make sure that you're publishing your podcast consistently on whichever day and however often you choose. I definitely recommend doing at least a weekly episode because that keeps things going and it keeps your audience engaged. For what it's worth, I chose to distribute my episodes on Monday, and I just have them available at midnight my time on Monday. My thinking there was that way as people go into their work week, the episode is going to be there and they can listen to it that day in the morning on their commute or any other time throughout the week that they want. They can pick up the episode. But you can choose whichever day and time. And of course, I'm not sitting there at midnight on Monday pushing the publish button. I just use the schedule feature. So I upload my episode, I make sure everything's good to go, and then I just schedule it in Buzzsprout to publish on Monday. Every podcast hosting platform has a scheduling option. So you can even be weeks ahead, months ahead sometimes if you wanted to, and you can keep things scheduled in advance and everything just kind of runs on its own. And that feels really, really good and makes you just feel like you're on top of everything. But that consistent time is not only going to be good for your audience, it's also going to be good for you as a creator because it's going to force you to keep making episodes. And that's what we're doing here. We're not just making one episode, we're establishing a workflow so you can continue to make episodes and keep your show going for the foreseeable future.